Many people around Columbus are completely unaware of what happens inside City Hall, but each day their lives are impacted by the decisions made here. From the roads we drive on, to the water we drink, to the sidewalks in our neighborhoods, to the parks we explore, to the public safety we enjoy, people are working day in and day out to make our lives better. Welcome to Council in 90, where we share stories about what's happening in your community through the work done here at City Hall. Hi, welcome to Council in 90. Today we're sitting down with Katie White and Councilmember Mitchell J. Brown, and we're talking about aging in Columbus. And Katie, I first want to start with you. Can you tell me your title, what organization you're with?
Sure. Thanks for having me here today. My name is Katie White. I'm Director of Age Friendly Columbus and Franklin County, which is a program of Ohio State's College of Social Work.
Okay. How did you get into this line of work of advocating for the aging population in the city?
Sure. Advocating for and with is what I like to say.
Ideal.
I majored in gerontology at Ohio State, always enjoyed working with older adults, worked in the nonprofit business for a number of years, and just heard about the Age Friendly Cities movement when I was at a conference in DC, and brought together some local leaders around the lunch table, and we decided we had to do it here. So in 2016 we launched, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it.
Yeah. What made you decide to major in gerontology in college? Like, where does this passion come from?
So there is a small group of people around the world that love older adults, and usually it comes from a place of growing up around older people, maybe neighbors or grandparents. For me, it was just something natural that I loved from a young age, and at family parties I would be kind of away from all the cousins and hanging out with the great aunts and uncles and grandparents. And my first job was in a nursing home, and never really looked back. Always knew this was the career path for me.
Awesome. Okay, Councilmember.
Yes, sir.
Where does your passion for working with older adults come from?
I am one.
Perfect.
So it's important to be aware of the fact that I used the term again at this past council meeting that aging is so cool, everybody's doing it, and we have an obligation to be aware and conscious about our seniors in our respective communities, whether they be grandparents or aunts and uncles. Anything we can do to try and make their lives better by being able to stay at home than in a controlled environment. Though controlled environments in nursing homes are fine, but most of them want to stay home. They feel more comfortable, and anything that I can do to try and make that happen is what I try to do.
So I want to ask a little bit about the relationship between you guys and the type of work that happens collaboratively between council and and your efforts. Sure. Can you guys talk a little bit about how you work together in your advocacy for seniors?
Well, I mean, the Age Friendly group obviously has done a remarkable job already, and I don't think individuals realize that our population in the city of Columbus is growing in the sense of senior citizens, but they still need to get out, and they still need to ride the buses and go to the museums and go to Franklin Park Conservatory and go to Clippers games or go to a Blue Jackets game. They want to do all the same things anybody else does, but the ability to be able to do that becomes a little more complicated, even getting groceries, getting pharmaceuticals when they have a need. So working with the Age Friendly group affords them an opportunity to know and make contacts with folks to make that all happen.
So in order to be an age-friendly community, you have to join this international network through the World Health Organization and AARP to say we are going to continually listen to older adults in our communities, engage with them, understand what the challenges are, and we're going to work together to bring solutions to the table. So as our 60-plus population doubles, as Councilmember mentioned, Age Friendly sort of acts as this liaison, I think, to council and to other community directors to say, we'll be in the community, we're going to hold focus groups and conversations, we're going to package that information up and bring it up to the top to talk about programs, to talk about advocacy, to hopefully influence funding and policy decisions.
Tell me a bit about what's happening in Columbus with an older population. What's going on?
Sure. So we are going to double our 60-plus population by 2050. Okay. And we see that as a really great opportunity to embrace changes and to prepare our community for that so that we can all thrive as we age, regardless of our ability or income or zip code. So We are continually listening and saying what's happening in the community that's working, what's happening in the community that's not working. We launched about 43 new programs and initiatives over the last 3 years with...
Sounds like you're very busy.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, I'm double booked right now.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it's too bad.
No, but the great news is, even though it's sort of a small staff, because it's all done in a reciprocal way where we are co-designers and co-implementers with older adults from across the community. So it's not always on us to run everything, but if there's an idea, then we take it out to the community and do it together. So transportation work, housing work, employment, looking at businesses, we kind of do whatever the community says we need to do.
Give us what are your favorite couple of those 43 programs that you've launched in the last 3 years? Because that's pretty incredible, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's very busy.
Sure.
I would say my favorite so far is our Positive Aging campaign. So it has taken almost 3 years to get this thing going, but as of next week, you'll see billboards around town with images of local elders and some powerful statistics and quotes, really trying to change the dialogue around aging, where it's not something to be feared, but it's something to be proud of and to be excited about.
If you don't have all of your models for your campaign, I have a recommendation.
Love that.
Councilmember Mitchell J. Brown.
Can we get that okay
modeling.
on air?
We'll see. Well, what Katie's saying is very special because, first and foremost, the seniors are working longer and not retiring as they used to in the same type of numbers. And again, the ability to get around and to do things and be engaged is very, very significant. But there are those who sometimes don't have that available to them. Yeah. Meals on Wheels, getting meals to people who can't get out to go to different restaurants. But again, our city is becoming very, very sensitive, and other cities around the country are paying much more attention to the senior population, because, as Katie's already identified, the fact that the numbers are going to grow and going to increase. And with that comes the realization that the experience, the exposures, the awareness, it all becomes far more heightened than what it has been in the past. And healthcare becomes really important for them when there's a potential medical problem. Not just pushing Lifeline or Life Alert to notify people, but our EMS system through our fire division, how they respond to take care of seniors and recognize that it is a senior. And then neighbors. One of the things that I think is really important is for a senior citizen, he or she or a family, but their neighbors, to be aware of how they're doing. Especially, we've had a relatively mild winter, but sometimes when the weather is lousy, somebody shovels their driveway for them. Someone goes and checks in on them. Are you guys doing okay? Are they able to make sure that they can pay their utility bills and that is actually happening? All those things become very, very important when you're aware of it. Realizing that someday, if you're lucky, you're going to become a senior citizen, and all those things will be available to you as well.
Well, I hope to be cool enough to be an older adult, like you.
Well, you got to work on it.
Fair. That's
I
perfect.
think you make a really good point, though, about neighbors helping neighbors. And another strategy we've helped work on is creating more villages, these small neighborhood-based nonprofits that work to empower older adults in the neighborhood to remain in their homes, mostly through connections to their neighbors as volunteers. But if you need a more skilled service, they can connect you to that. And then one of the biggest strengths of a village is that it creates this social cohesion within a community.
Which is critical.
I want to go out to dinner, I know these other folks want to, or I just need someone to come over and help make a batch of chili that I can freeze. It's these small neighborhood-based institutions that I think are really the way of the future in terms of aging the way you want to.
Can we talk about the importance of the social aspect of aging?
Just as an example, a couple of weeks ago, I love going to the movies. But I took my next door neighbor, who happens to be 86 years young, to the movies with me.
What'd you see?
It's something that we went to go see. It's called Just Mercy.
Okay, I saw that.
She had read the book a number of years ago, and I happen to know the author, Mr. Brian Stevenson. I said, let's go to the movies together. And of course, when we go, and I got to have my senior citizen discount, and she gets the same thing. But I knew it would be kind of difficult for her to get to the movies, so we went and had a great time. You know, I mean, and that's what you end up doing. And then we talked about the movie, we talked about the book. Those kinds of events and keeping people in mind becomes important. And sharing birthdays or around that time period, not only just holidays, that are very, very important. And so socialization and seeing seniors who'll be walking their pets, walking their dogs or their cats, whatever the pet may be, is really, really important because of the socialization that takes place if they don't have a partner in the home.
What other socialization programs are you guys working on?
We have a number of intergenerational programs that we're working on. So whether it's bringing in older adults into middle schools to have conversations around aging, to some intergenerational housing strategies that we're working on too.
Tell me about this.
Sure. So I'll talk about two of them, if that's okay.
Yep.
One of them is a student in residence. So we actually have an Ohio State student that lives in Ohio Living Westminster Thurber's Independent Living. So they have a free studio in that building in exchange for engagement and socialization with residents that live there. So it's this, again, this reciprocal approach of the free rent, but also this social cohesion between the different generations. So we're in our second year of that. In our first year, we had a social work student that lived there, and now we have a city and regional planning student living there.
How's it going?
It's great. Both sides love it. I mean, it's really this joyous experience that the students and residents both have, and it's really revered in a program. We're excited to hopefully evaluate the impact and really have some measurable results and figure out how to help other communities do that too.
Okay.
And the second one is called Nestor Lee. So it is a home sharing opportunity meant to engage individuals from different generations to home share. So in this respect, it is a older adult, someone 50 or older that has a spare bedroom and rents it to someone who is a young professional or a student with the thought that there's this decrease in social isolation potentially, but also it's a way for an older adult to earn income and a way for a student to have affordable housing. So there are these really great checks and balances. It's this great technology meets old age ideas, right? So home sharing is not a new idea, but the platform that does the background check and the money and the social engagement before you're matched with someone, that's this new age technology approach. So the students or young adults that are living there can pay a certain amount of rent just straight off the top, or they can fill out something where they exchange and maybe mow the lawn in the summer and shovel the snow in the winter for $100 less a month in rent or something along those lines. It is quite a deal, yeah.
Wow. It's the old bartering concept.
Yeah,
you do want something for me, I do something for you. That's cool.
And what's
That is
really cool about it is we're actually only the second community in the U.S. to have Nestor Lee. It was founded in Boston. My colleague Marisa reached out to the CEO of Nestor Lee and said, hey, I think we have the right partners in place with our college town, with our strong support across the community. And they said yes, and so we launched it I think about 6 or 8 months ago, and the Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging manages it.
What's the feedback that you guys have received so far?
There's a lot of interest. So the host is the older adult and the guests are the younger adults. And I think surprisingly it takes a little bit long for these matches to occur before the move-in happens, but I think that's a good thing. You don't want to rush into something like that. But both sides have been, both guests and hosts have been really excited about the concept and sort of where it might go and provide these additional affordable housing units immediately.
If people who are watching or listening are interested in taking part of that, where would they go to find out more information?
They would call the Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging.
Okay.
And I don't know the number off the top of my head, but we can run it back.
Yeah, well,
exactly.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, one of the things that Katie mentioned, though, I think is really, really important, is that seniors get caught up in the issue of isolationism.
Yeah.
And this is a way in which for them to have contact with others and that they would not normally have. They lose a spouse, and the next thing you know, you haven't talked to someone in 2 or 3 months. They don't know who to reach out to if they don't have family. So this gives them an opportunity to have some contact with someone who's younger, has a different perspective on different issues, and they get to share that. So it's a positive program. We just got to wait and get the results, but I think it'll work out very well.
Awesome. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about being physically active, because you're kind of like Councilmember, you're kind of like a superhero in town. You're basically everywhere. You're doing yoga, you're working out, you're meeting with people everywhere. You're everywhere. What do you do to keep fit and active, and what can other seniors do to try and reach your level of activity?
Well, the level of activity, since we exercise, that's because I don't particularly like doctors, and I'm not crazy about dentists. So I do whatever I can to try and avoid those people. But you do that by, exercise. Walking is really special. Riding my bicycle, I ride my bike, and yes, I do yoga. And I talked to a friend of mine just recently who now is playing pickleball. I haven't learned how to play pickleball yet. I'm going to figure that all out. The more exercise, you exercise not only the body, but you exercise the mind. And when you're engaged, and what I advocate, and this is just last week, one of my former firefighters who was retired when I was safety director, he rides his bike. He's got excited about riding his bike.
Okay.
But what I told him to do is not only ride, but then journal. Write about what's going on around you. Doesn't have to, it could be political, it could be good weather, it could be family. And he's like, I didn't think about that. He said, because I just am tired when I finish writing. No, sit down, journal a little bit, and write down what's going on, and then when you go back and look at it. I have journals that go back a long way for when I used to run a lot. I don't run anymore, but no, exercise and walking is spectacular. My neighbors in my neighborhood, when they see me walking, they say, "Why aren't you riding your bike?" And when they see me riding my bike, they ask me, "Why am I walking?" So, but they know, and to get out and do that. And I advocate for all seniors to stay physically active. It's really, stay away from doctors if you can.
Well, doctors are important to keep you healthy, but you're an avid yoga connoisseur.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about the benefits of that. And
well, the fun part about yoga is not just the poses, but balance. When you the number one cause of death in seniors is falls. When they get older, they fall down, and they're not conscious of their respective environment, whether it's rugs on the floor or toys or whatever may be around. Once they fall, it becomes a serious issue. Yeah. That's all about balance. When you're a young person, you don't pay any attention to it.
No, I fall all the time.
See, and look, what happened to you?
I'm in some trouble.
But riding a bike is balance. And you take it for granted. When I was younger and I could ride a bike and I could take my hands off the handlebars and I could pedal, I can't do that now. But it's all about balance. And one of the things that I always advocate is, how do you improve on your balance? You don't do it automatically or right away. I like to say that when you brush your teeth, you stand on one foot for a minute while you brush your teeth, and then switch over to the other foot and brush your teeth for another minute. Most people brush their teeth for at least 2 minutes. And if you do that twice a day, you'd be amazed how stronger your legs get, how stronger your hips get, how stronger your knees are, and how stronger your ankles are. Simple, but very, very practical. So yeah, I'm a strong advocate for it. And I've been doing it for a long time.
Can you go a whole minute brushing your teeth without balancing yourself on the sink?
Can I do what?
Can you go a whole minute brushing your teeth without balancing yourself?
Sure.
I'm in some trouble.
Yeah, exactly. And well, it forces the brain to compensate.
Yeah, it does.
And when you do that, when you stand on one foot for a short period of time, so you take it for granted when you're walking, or, and more importantly along the same lines, is take the stairs instead of the elevator.
Yeah.
One of the particular medical facility that I have had a chance to go to, they have a sign on the wall that says, "Free exercise equipment, use the stairs." How cool is that? And I'm not saying walk up 8 flights of steps, but certainly 1 or 2 flights of steps as opposed to taking the elevator. Again, it just strengthens your body, and the new Fitbit watches and all those things they have that monitor your steps. How many you can get in the course of a time, course of a day. And especially when the weather's cold, so you don't get a chance to get out as much, but you can still bundle up, put a hat on, gloves, and go for a walk through the neighborhood.
One of the ways that I think age-friendly intersects this personal health and preferences for staying healthy is around the built environment. So it is important to get out and walk try different modes of transportation like bikes and buses, but we need to make sure as a community that we have the right accessibility in place to support that, right? So do our crosswalks allow enough time? Do we have curb cuts in the right places? Where can we fill in some sidewalk gaps in neighborhoods where we know a lot of older adults are living? And so thinking about sort of that built environment, that social environment, those services environments, that's where age-friendly helps to intersect personal superheroes, like you would say, that are aging in a way that are really active, but that's not necessarily the case across the board. So how do we as a system and as a community support these different abilities and interests of
and make it
all?
accessible for them to be able to get to them.
Exactly.
Our Franklin parks, we have wonderful parks. To go on a Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning and go walk through the parks is good for you mentally, it's good for you physically, and certainly from a health standpoint, you have socialization, you get to talk with other folks and find out what they think about the birds and trees and all the other things that are going on. It's really pretty cool.
Wow.
Go for that walk with a friend, and then you're really doing it, right?
Exactly.
Social and physical.
Gosh, checking all the boxes. You guys, I'm very thankful that you're both on the case. You're both advocating for older adults in the community, and thank you very much for being here. Katie?
And
Thanks for having me.
aging is what? So cool.
Everybody's doing it.
Exactly.
Superhero, Councilmember Mitchell J. Brown.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.